It always starts with love, or at least that's what they tell you. A dream of forever, a shared vision of family, faith, and something bigger than yourself. But what happens when that dream unravels thread by thread, until all you're left holding is silence, questions, and a bitter sense of betrayal? That's the story unfolding between Kody Brown and Janelle Brown. But this isn't just a breakup. This is deeper, messier, and for the first time in their decades-long relationship, it's headed straight for the courtroom. Now, if you've followed Sister Wives, you already know the Brown family isn't your typical American household. 4 wives, 1 husband, nearly 20 kids, years of shared memories. A family built on faith and filmed for millions to see. But behind the cameras and smiling faces, something was festering, something financial, emotional, and some might say inevitable. The heart of it all? Control, ownership, trust, and the slow realization that love alone might not be enough to keep things together. Let me ask you this. Have you ever given your heart, your time, and your resources to someone, only to find out later you were never really part of the decision-making? That somewhere along the way, you stopped being a partner and became more of a passenger? If you have, then you'll feel the weight of what Janelle Brown is going through. And if you haven't, well, you might be shocked by just how familiar her story still feels. This story isn't just about divorce. It's about land, money, secrets, loyalty, and standing up for yourself when you've had enough. And it all started with a promise, a piece of land called Coyote Pass, wide, open land under the Arizona sky, where Kody dreamed of building homes for each of his wives. A place where unity could take shape in wood and stone. But dreams are slippery things, and as Janelle would soon find out, not everything was as fair or equal as it seemed. One by one, the pieces fell into place. Kody consolidating control. Robyn, his 4th wife, seemingly getting more time, more influence, more say. And Janelle? She was left on the sidelines, watching the family she helped build slip further away. Still, she tried to hold on, for the kids, for the dream, for the man she once trusted. But the final straw didn't come with yelling, or infidelity, or scandal. It came in a quiet, devastating sentence from Kody's mouth. You're not legally entitled to it. That one line changed everything. Because for all the years Janelle had stood by Kody, sharing him, defending him, sacrificing stability, she never imagined he'd erase her contributions with a single statement. No legal title. No claim. Just nothing. So she did what many women in their 50s or 60s find themselves doing after years of compromise. She stood up. Janelle began asking questions. Where did the money go? Why were some accounts off limits? Why did Robyn seem to have access, while she didn't? And most importantly, how much had she really lost by trusting Kody? These aren't just questions for reality TV. These are questions many women ask themselves in silence, especially after long relationships where financial control becomes a quiet battlefield. For Janelle, the answers came slowly and painfully. There were rumors, reports, whispers of missing funds, unequal distributions, secret accounts, and finally court papers. Yes, court. For years, Sister Wives showed us family dinners, moving trucks, holiday traditions, and family therapy. But it never showed us this Janelle, preparing to take Kody Brown to court. Not for revenge, but for recognition, for what she was owed, for what she earned, and maybe, just maybe, for closure. It's not easy walking away after 3 decades. It's even harder when there's property, money, and public opinion wrapped up in it. But Janelle did something many people admire. She put her foot down. And that moment, that line in the sand, resonated far beyond the show. Because here's the truth. Thousands of women, especially older women, have faced this same turning point. They've built families, supported partners, stayed quiet, deferred dreams, and then when it all fell apart, they were told they didn't own anything. But this time, someone is telling that story out loud. And her name is Janelle Brown. So what really happened, behind the scenes? What was found in those subpoenaed accounts? And why did Christine, another former wife, stand firmly beside Janelle in support? Those are the questions we're going to explore in this full breakdown. Because the truth about the Brown family isn't just drama for TV. It's a mirror reflecting real struggles and real families across America. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, because this story, It's about to show you what happens when one woman finally says enough is enough, but no charges were ever brought. That fact was the linchpin for one of the most brazen lawsuits in the history of reality television. In July 2011, Kody Brown and his 4 wives, Meri, Janelle, Christine, and Robyn, sued the state of Utah and the Utah County Attorney, whose name was Jeffrey Buhman, in federal court. The case would come to be referred to as Brown v. Buhman. The Browns weren't fighting in their own defense. They were asserting the constitutionality of Utah's anti-polygamy statutes. It was a riskiest, bravest thing to do, suing the very authority that had threatened to destroy their family. But for Kody, this wasn't about his personal liberty. This was about religious freedom, privacy, and fairness. Their legal case rested on the U.S. Constitution, First Amendment, freedom of religious, 14th Amendment, equal protection and due process, right to privacy, as determined in landmark cases such as Lawrence v. Texas. The Browns weren't requesting legal acceptance of polygamy. They were merely stating, you cannot arrest consenting adults for the way they live or whom they love, particularly if they're not violating any laws other than sharing a residence. Utah's law in those days not only punished individuals with multiple marriage certificates, it also made cohabitation with more than one spouse in a marriage-like arrangement a criminal offense. That meant even spiritual wives, no paperwork or government intervention, could lead to a felony bigamy charge. That was what made sister wives so dangerous. By depicting Kody openly living with multiple women, having dinner together as a family, celebrating holidays, raising children collectively, the Browns had established what the law regarded as proof of a crime. But Kody and his attorneys resisted strongly. They contended that the law was vague, overly broad, and discriminatory in aiming to punish religious minorities, particularly fundamentalist Mormons, such as the Browns, and for a fleeting instant in time, they prevailed. In December 2013, a federal judge stunned the nation with a decision in favor of the Browns. The cohabitation aspect of Utah's bigamy statute, the judge said, is unconstitutional. It was a big civil rights victory, and a time of optimism for plural families nationwide. Suddenly, Kody Brown wasn't only a reality TV personality, he was a legal pioneer. For the first time, a federal court had held that having multiple partners, even within a family context, could not be outlawed if no fraud or abuse occurred. But that victory was brief. In April 2016, the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals overturned the ruling. Why? Not because the judges did not agree with the Browns' arguments, but because they held that the Browns lacked legal standing to sue. Why? Because they had never actually been prosecuted, only investigated. And in the absence of prosecution, the court held, the Browns were not entitled to say that their rights had been violated in a manner the court could remedy. It was a technicality, but a devastating one. The ruling stripped the Browns of their legal victory, and Utah's polygamy statutes went right back into effect. While all this courtroom drama was making the news on a national scale, something just as volatile was taking place within the Brown family. In 2014, just a year after having won in court, Kody Brown did something that shocked viewers, hurt his wives, and altered the family for good. He officially divorced his first wife Meri Brown, whom he had been married to for 24 years. Why? To lawfully marry Robyn, the newest wife, the one that he had spiritually married in 2010. And why did he do that legal switch? Adoption. Robyn had 3 kids from her previous marriage. To lawfully adopt them, Kody had to be lawfully wedded to her according to state law. So Kody initiated divorce proceedings against Meri, the woman who had been at his side for decades, and in a subdued courthouse in December 2014, their marriage dissolved on paper. He married Robyn legally a few months later. The emotional harm from that choice was overwhelming. Meri was heartbroken. She admitted afterwards she felt used, like a stepping stone for Robyn's benefit. The divorce shook her sense of self, her family status, and her faith in Kody. Janelle and Christine were also caught off guard, not knowing how the dynamics had swung so far in Robyn's direction. Audiences watched as the cracks began to form. What had appeared to be a plural marriage, united in spirit, now seemed like Kody and Robyn, and the rest of them. And it was all, the divorce, the legal marriage, the adoption, the result of legal maneuvering. To the fans, it was evidence that Kody wasn't merely battling the law, he was employing it to redefine his family, and not everyone was interested in following. Between the Utah lawsuit, loss in federal appeals court, and Meri-Robyn divorce marriage switch, this was a time of legal drama, marital heartache, and irreparable loss for the Browns. Kody Brown felt he was fighting for freedom, but by the close of 2016, the legal winds had been wiped out, and his family was beginning to come apart from the inside out. The law might have backed down, but the harm? It had already been inflicted. Kody's COVID-19 rules isolated his family more apart, and resulted in the ultimate departures of Christine, Janelle, and Meri. In 2011, Kody Brown did something nearly no one in his situation had ever been brave enough to do. He didn't hide, he didn't flee. Instead, he sued the state of Utah, the same state that had prosecuted him, the same state whose statutes criminalized his way of life, the same state that had scared him and his whole family away. But this wasn't merely about one man seeking to vindicate his reputation. This was about all plural families living in the shadows. When Kody filed the lawsuit known as Brown v. Buhman, the headlines focused on the TV star. But Kody's legal team had a much bigger message. We're not asking for the right to marry multiple people on paper. We're asking for the right to live without fear. At the heart of their lawsuit was a deep question about the role of government. Can the state criminalize the cohabitation of consenting adults just because it looks like polygamy? Can the law sanction a family arrangement, even if there is no abuse, fraud, or harm? Kody and his wives contended the answer was no, that Utah's bigamy statutes, particularly the cohabitation clause, were overly broad, discriminatory, and unconstitutional, and they were not alone in believing that. Legal experts, civil rights activists, and even some ex-prosecutors in quiet consensus agreed. The law, they argued, was archaic and used against religious minorities, like Mormon fundamentalists. It was no longer a family soap opera. It was a civil rights case in the making. After 2 years of hearings, petitions, and hot national media coverage, the Browns finally received the judgment they struggled for. In December 2013, a federal judge ruled that Utah's cohabitation law was unconstitutional. The judge explained that the law was a breach of the First Amendment right to religion and the 14th Amendment right to privacy and due process. For the Browns, it was vindication. For the first time in U.S. history, a court had spoken. You cannot criminalize the way consenting adults wish to live together. The decision didn't make polygamy legal, but it did something equally as significant. It overturned the provision of Utah law that permitted the state to probe and sanction families merely for residing in a shared household in a plural arrangement. It allowed families such as the Browns, and there were hundreds of others living in silent terror, to finally catch their breath. When word of the decision hit the airwaves, it was incendiary. Kody Brown, the polygamist once lampooned by TV cameras, was now being debated on CNN, MSNBC, and blogs about the law nationwide. He was no longer just a reality show personality. He was the face of revolution on the law books. And yet, for all the triumph, the Browns knew it wasn't finished. The state of Utah wasn't quite ready to give up. In 2014, mere months after the Browns' win in court, Utah appealed. They wanted the original decision reversed. They claimed that although the law was antiquated, it did still have a purpose, deterring possible exploitation, child marriages, and religious cults. The case now proceeded to the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals, one of the nation's higher courts. And that's when the story takes a dramatic and tragic turn. Back in April 2016, the appeals court issued its ruling. The Browns' case was thrown out, not because their point was mistaken, but because the court ruled they didn't have the right to sue. The lawyer's jargon was lack of standing. In plain English, you were never arrested, you were never charged, you weren't actually punished, so you can't say your rights were violated. It was a cruel technicality. Kody Brown had opened his life up, risked his liberty, and spent years in the federal courts, only to be informed, you don't qualify to battle this. For Kody and his family, it was heartbreaking. They hadn't lost the case. They lost the one thing they were clinging to, an illusion of legal security. With the 2016 reversal, Utah's bigamy laws were once again fully intact, including the controversial cohabitation clause. That meant that even though Kody and his wives had left Utah years ago, the ruling still sent a chilling message to other plural families across the country. You're still on your own. And the Browns, they weren't just legally vulnerable again. They were emotionally and mentally drained. The emotional toll of the lawsuit first emerged in the dynamics of the family. Viewers saw it. So did the Browns. Christine Brown afterwards revealed in interviews that the lawsuit had opened up wounds in the family. Janelle conceded it was tougher than we anticipated. Even Robyn, typically supportive, cried during one episode, declaring, "We fought so hard. And now it feels like it didn't even matter." Kody, once towering as the leader of the brawl, became distant, defensive, and frazzled. He was no longer that man. The burden of public criticism, judicial loss, and family splits from within had been exacting their price. And Meri, she was growing more isolated, particularly following the judicial divorce. She began to withdraw emotionally, and before long, the fissures that opened up in court started appearing in the home. Even with the loss, most legal analysts still regard Brown v. Buhman as a landmark case. It didn't rewrite the law forever, but it made the nation have an uncomfortable discussion. Should the government regulate the consensual sex lives of adults? Should religious minorities be penalized for intimate family arrangements? In what happens when TV cameras capture a world the law doesn't comprehend? Kody Brown might not have prevailed in court, but he shifted the national dialogue. And for a few short years, he offered plural families something they had never had: hope. Kody's austere COVID regulation, escalating tensions, and appalling betrayals drive the Brown family into a complete breakdown. Who remained, and who finally ended it? After 24 years of marriage, he walked away with a signature. The court battles were simmering down. The glare of the courtroom had dimmed. But in the Brown home, a different type of tempest was building. And this time, it wasn't all about lawyers and judges. It was about love, allegiance, and betrayal. In 2014, Sister Wives fans were shocked by a title that didn't seem possible. Kody Brown divorces Meri. Wait, what? Kody and Meri were the foundation couple, the lawful basis of the entire Brown clan. They had been married 24 years. They'd created a family, shared a home, and brought plural marriage into public view, together. But now, he was divorcing her, and not for Christine, not for Janelle, for Robyn. Initially, everyone believed it was a scandal. Then came the explanation, and it only complicated matters further. It wasn't about a romantic breakup. It was a legal maneuver. Robyn, Kody's fourth wife, had 3 children from a former marriage. Her former husband had been nowhere around, and Kody wanted to officially adopt her kids. But there was an issue. Under Utah state law, a man can't adopt his wife's children unless he's formally married to the mom. Kody was spiritually married to Robyn, as he was with Janelle and Christine. He had only one legal wife, Meri. So what did he do? He divorced Meri and married Robyn. That's it. One signature ended a multi-decade-long legal marriage, and another one made Robyn the sole woman legally bound to Kody Brown. For Meri, the divorce wasn't paperwork. It was heartbreak. She put a brave face on things at first. In interviews, she described it as a sacrifice for the sake of the family. She said, "It's not a divorce in our hearts. It's just a legal shift, so Robyn's kids can be safe." But behind the scenes, she was devastated. She was the first wife, the one who had brought Robyn into the family originally, the one who had built the entire Brown family from the ground up. And now she was being replaced, and the audience watched it all go down on TV. Meri sobbing by herself, pulling away from family events, wrestling with where she stood in the family. The legal separation might have been for the kids, but to Meri, it was like losing everything. Christine and Janelle couldn't quite wrap their heads around what had occurred. It just felt like a huge change of power to them. Up until now, all the wives were on an equal level, spiritually united to Kody, emotionally devoted, and publicly revered. But now there was one legal wife, one woman with Kody's name on her marriage certificate, and that woman was Robyn. Christine confessed in subsequent interviews that she felt the dynamic of the family was shifting. Janelle stated that she had concerns, but was confident in the legal logic. Even so, there was an undercurrent of tension, a sense that Robyn wasn't merely the new wife any longer, that she was the wife. Meanwhile, viewers at home were witnessing the action, and many were left wondering about Kody's ulterior motives. Was this actually about adoption, or was it about establishing Robyn within the family? More and more viewers came to observe a trend over time. Kody spent increasing amounts of time with Robyn. They became more vocally defensive of her choices. They asked her permission before making large family transitions. Meri, Christine, and Janelle were becoming background figures in their own worlds, as Robyn was starting to be the real partner in Kody's life. The legal maneuver that was designed to assist the family was gradually dismantling it. The psychological impact of the divorce resonated throughout the entire family. Meri plunged into deep depression. She started to isolate herself, and that made her condition even worse. In time, she confessed to feeling unwanted and rejected. At a time of desperation and isolation, she even found herself embroiled in an emotional catfishing controversy, during which she believed she was communicating with a man on the internet, but was being hoodwinked. The controversy hit the news and humiliated the family, but it uncovered something more serious. Meri was isolated. Christine, already feeling shoved aside, began questioning her own future with Kody. Janelle attempted to remain impartial, concentrating on her children, her business, and self-improvement. And Robyn, she took a more active role in decision-making. She and Kody started making decisions together, without input from the other wives. Their house was the default headquarters for the family. The Brown family structure, originally established on mutual love and equal respect, was now established on legal documents, favoritism, and emotional distance. This divorce was more than a legal proceeding. It was the catalyst for the whole Sister Wives franchise. Prior to the divorce, the show was one of unity, faith, and adversity overcome as a collective. Post-divorce, it was one of survival. The wives began living more autonomous lifestyles. The children sensed the tension, and viewers, once cheering for the Brown family, began to question tough things. Was this plural marriage, or was this Kody Brown moving into a monogamous marriage with Robyn? One fan tweeted, "It's not Sister Wives anymore. It's Kody and Robyn, featuring everyone else." In retrospect, the 2014 divorce was more than a legal strategy. It was the time the fantasy ended. The notion that this was all one big, harmonious plural family, gone. The emotional cohesion they had boasted about, gone. And the father who had insisted previously that he loved all his wives equally, was now legally committed to just one. For Meri, it marked the start of the end. For Christine, it was the day she began making her plans to. For Janelle, it was the acceptance that the family would never be what it used to be. And for the viewers, it was the beginning of a new season, not only of the series, but of skepticism, disappointment, and unraveling alliance, betrayals, breakups, and the ultimate cracks that led to its demise. The emotional breakdown of the Sister Wives family. The courtroom is silent, but the turmoil never ceased. When the cameras stop, and the headlines die away, most reality celebrities fade into mundane existence, but not Kody Brown. His existence remains under scrutiny, and it's worsening. As Sister Wives reaches its current season, the formerly risk-taking head of the Brown household isn't only dealing with family strife. He's dealing with serious financial and legal questions that threaten to blow the lid wide open on everything we ever believed. Because the scandals, they aren't over, not even close. Let's start with the money. And not just a little money. We're talking over $820,000 in reported financial chaos. Public records, property databases, and fan-led investigations have revealed a long paper trail. Unpaid property taxes, IRS liens, unresolved debts, and suspicious activity around the family's land in Coyote Pass, Arizona. In Flagstaff, where the Brown family so famously relocated to begin anew, they bought several acres of countryside property with lofty aspirations of erecting individual houses for each wife. But years down the line, the property remains vacant. No houses, no building, no fairy tale resolution. And now it's being asked by fans and legal monitors in tow. Where did the cash go? The relocation to Flagstaff was meant to be the next big chapter in the family's life, but rather it was a symbol of broken promises and fiscal mistakes. Kody subdivided the land into lots, allotting lots to each wife, designing custom houses, and envisioning an exclusive family compound. But the houses were never constructed. Years went by. The wives started leaving, one at a time, and the expensive,
They simply mounted. Between interest charges, property upkeep, and legal bureaucracy, the land has turned into a drain, not an investment. In 2025, Coyote Pass is still incomplete and unmoved, but it's more than an emotional albatross. It's a financial time bomb waiting to go off. Several online sources, such as county court records and real estate documents, indicate that the Browns, specifically Kody and Robyn, are under intense government pressure. The biggest bombshell: more than $820,000 in reported tax liens and debt, most of which are attributed to real estate holdings in Arizona and Nevada. For years, Kody flaunted publicly being debt-free and financially astute. Behind the scenes, however, it seems the family's earnings, once fueled by sister wives' fame, book deals, and endorsement money, couldn't match their lifestyle inflation. Costly moves, several homes, scores of kids, healthcare expenses, and now, accumulating debt. One insider was reportedly quoted to say, "They were handling too many money balls, and now it all comes crashing down." The legal intrigue doesn't stop there with taxes. As more of the Brown children become adults, and others remain minor, rumors of custody battles have begun to circulate. Some of the older children have publicly and negatively addressed Kody. Others have cut them off altogether. Others have suggested that having been raised in a dysfunctional split home has caused long-lasting emotional damage. And for the younger kids still attached to Robyn and Kody's legal family, the question arises: are custody wars on the horizon? If Kody and Robyn are held in legal or monetary jeopardy, the court may be compelled to step into the care or monetary guardianship of children. It hasn't occurred yet, but it's real, and viewers are paying close attention. One of the largest questions surrounding this financial debacle is, will TLC air it? Up until now, the network has dutifully edited the family's financial woes, alluding to money issues without going into. Now that the debt is on public record, and now that viewers are calling for transparency, TLC might have to do something. Many believe that the next season of Sister Wives could include legal consultation, financial breakdowns, Kody and Robyn confronting foreclosure or lawsuit, possible intervention from the adult children. And let's be honest, viewers love drama. If TLC does decide to tell the full story, it could become one of the most watched seasons in the show's history. Through all of this, one figure remains at the center of controversy: Robyn Brown. Once the sweet fourth wife, she's now regarded by many of the fans as the brains behind Kody's collapse. Why? She became the sole legal wife. She settled in the biggest, most costly house. She's said to be controlling the family budget. And now, she's said to be responsible for most of the debt, either outright or jointly with Kody. Others think Robyn and Kody built a cash bubble, living as if TLC paychecks would never end. Fame recedes, viewership declines, and cash disappears. Today, Robyn is being hailed the queen of a crumbling empire. Kody Brown might not be standing before a judge today, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's free. In the court of public opinion, Kody is definitely on trial. And the verdict: fans are outraged. Wives have deserted. Finances are in shambles. Where there once was a proud polygamous patriarch, stands now a man charged with favoritism, fraud, mismanagement, and manipulation. Whether or not he's ever officially charged again, his name might never clear. As of 2025, the Brown family is nothing like they were when the show started. And Meri is truly gone. As Christine is living her best life. Sans Kody. As Janelle has moved on and rebuilt her autonomy. As just Raw and is left. And even she appears to be overwhelmed. The legal dream that started when she began to challenge polygamy laws has turned into a financial and emotional nightmare. The same courtroom that once held out hope for Kody of changing the law may soon be seeing his name again, this time in civil lawsuits, tax hearings, or debt settlement. The Brown family saga isn't over. It's just entering a new chapter, one that may be darker than anything we've seen. Kody Brown isn't legally on trial, but in the eyes of his family, his fans, and his faith, the judgment is far from over. Kody Brown versus the system. The fight isn't over. He walked into the spotlight claiming to live by faith, family, and he informed the world that he simply desired to love, to create a life with 4 wives, raise 24 kids, and defy the system condemning his lifestyle.